Hi everyone, on this tutorial I will show you how I took the picture using a Xiaomi Mi Sphere 360 camera. As you can see, I was able to have a good image with a visible Milky Way, some stars, city lights and a good background. So let's start. First of all, you need some items for the shots. Some black tape to cover two LEDs in front of the camera and a black bag or sock or cloth to put over two lenses. Both are needed to take the dark frames for Sequator. I will explain later what a dark frame is. You need a tripod or monopod, since you will need to take long exposure. A smartphone with MiSphere or MADV application is also needed. As an option, you can add a power bank with a long USB cable to keep the battery charged, since the shooting session is quite long and the battery can drain a lot. As editing software, I strongly suggest you to buy MiSphere Converter to stitch your images. This application, once calibrated, is the best to have perfect stitch. Sequator will be used to reduce sensor noise on the sky, to reduce light pollution and enhance stars. This software is really great on stars picture and it's also free. Photoshop or any other image editing is okay. My tutorial is based on Photoshop, by the way. I will put the links on the description for these softwares. Talking about camera settings, you need to set DNG and JPEG. Since JPEG will not be very useful during sky shots, white balance is not constant and JPEG compression can create artifacts. As a starting point, 20 seconds of exposure is a good one. You could also try 30 seconds if needed, but those settings will work only on dark environments. For my picture, I had to take 12 seconds and 2 seconds exposure to recover the city lights. I suggest you to choose 800 ISO and don't go higher. This to avoid excessive noise. White balance can be set to auto and 2 seconds intervalometer to have the closest interval time between shots. Before and after the shot sequence, you need to take dark frames for Sequator. Dark frames are needed to reduce sensor noise and detect dead pixel too. So you need to take those shots with the same exposure settings and the two lenses completely covered. No light must leak. So you now understand why it's better to cover the two LEDs with a black tape and the camera with a black bag. So remember, one dark frame before and one dark frame after the shot sequence. I suggest you to take up to 20 shots at 20 seconds for the sky, up to 8 shots at 12 seconds for the city lights, and up to 8 but 4 can be okay at 2 seconds for the highlights. After stitching the DNGs with MiSphere Converter, now we are ready to load the sky shots to Sequator. To load them, you need to click on Star Images and select the path where you save it. In my case is the 20 seconds folder, select all and click on Open. By default, Sequator will choose the middle shot as base image. If you need, you can set your base image, double click on it and choose the right one for you from your folder. Double click on Noise Images to load your dark frames. Select them all and click Open. You don't need vignetting images, but we must set the output folder and the file name. Test TIFF on my case. Now you have some quick settings to manage on Sequator. The first one is Composition. Click on it and leave Align Stars. We have also the option to create trails, but is not useful for this time. You only need to click on Freeze Ground to tell Sequator to align only the stars, and to select the sky we need to click on Sky Region and use a brush. You can change the brush size with the mouse wheel and keep pressing the left mouse button to select the sky. You don't need to be very precise, but I choose to unselect the flagpole since they move a little due to the wind. To unselect, just keep pressing the right mouse button and move the mouse. Like this. Now just a little bit of retouch here. Here. On this side too. Here. Okay. I think it's okay. You can leave off the auto brightness, HDR, and dynamic noise reduction. Change the reduce distortion, right-clicking and choose complex, since we are using a wide-angle lens and stars can be distorted on the edges. You can leave off reduce light pollution and enhance starlight now. You will use it later. Leave off merge for pixels and time-lapse too. Color space is your choice. Right-click it to choose sRGB or Adobe RGB. Normally I use Adobe RGB since the color space is wider. Click on Start and let us Sequator do the work. It will be really fast. Click on Close and the Sequator will load the preview. Notice the ground is perfectly freezed with the flagpoles. City lights are a little burned and the stars are not so visible right now due to light pollution, so we'll need to create a new project. Click on Project, New Project, click Yes if you don't want to save the actual project. Double-click on Star Images, double-click on Test TIFF. If you want, you can apply an overpass of noise reduction, but it's not needed normally. Click on Output and give a new file a name, Test Sky for me. Now double-click on Reduce Light Pollution and move the slider one tick to the right. Double-click on Enhance Starlight to enable it and then click on Start. Click on Close and now you will finally see the image with better starlights. Now you will be able to notice the Milky Way and a lot more stars with less light pollution. That's all for Sequator. Now, using Photoshop, you will need to load the same 20 seconds DNGs used on Sequator. I normally use stacking median to reduce noise and remove moving people and things. Click on File, Scripts, Load File into Stack. Click on Browse and go to a 20 seconds folder to load the images. Select Create Smart Object after loading layers and click OK. It will take some minutes to load since they are DNG files. Now you must choose the kind of stacking you need. So click on Layer, Smart Object, Stack Mode, and click on Medium. OK, this will be the background image for the 360 panorama. All you need to do is to flatten the image, click on Layer, select Flat Image. Then you can save the image as a 16-bit TIFF. Normally, I prefer to enlarge my image to avoid simline when using Camera Raw editing. Even if the latest Camera Raw update added panorama image support, I prefer to be safe adding 1500 pixels on each side of the image. So I created an automatic action to do this. Now the image is enlarged. So you can click on File, Save As, and select TIFF. I use Adobe RGB on my workflow. Click on Save. I don't do it now since I already have the file. I will do the same stacking medium process for the 12 seconds and 2 seconds images, and I will enlarge the sky image too. Now I loaded my PSD file with the 4 layers converter as a smart object. I prefer to have smart objects since I can always revert or change camera raw settings on the fly. There are 4 levels. One for the sky, 2 for the city lights, one is the 12 second and the other the 2 second exposure, and this one is the background. If I leave only the background label visible, you can see how burned are the city lights. And in the dark areas, some red and green camera bad pixels are visible too. You can also see the difference with or without camera raw settings. These are the camera raw settings. I turned down a little bit the exposure and the blacks, raised the texture for better details, and a little bit of the haze too. No noise reduction or sharpening, but I reduced the green and purple fringe on the city lights along the hills. To recover the city lights, I added the 12 seconds exposure with some masking. As camera settings, I added a little bit of contrast and took down the highlights. A touch of texture and dehaze to enhance the overall details. I moved a little bit the temperature because it was a little yellowish. No noise and no sharpening. Some green and purple fringe reduction at the over level. Since there were still too much burned city lights, I decided to use a 2 seconds layer, even if it was a little bit underexposure. Notice the bad masking, it will disappear using the sky mask. Also, I set the fill at 45 to still have some luminosity from the 12 seconds layer. As camera settings, look how dark is the overall image, but the city lights are still visible. I raised a little bit the exposure by 1.45 to avoid underexposure. I raised the whites and the blacks, nothing else. I used a little bit of noise reduction to avoid the noise created by the exposure settings. I did some purple and fringe reduction. Adding the sky layer and masking, you can see how well it blended. As camera raw settings, I raised a little bit the exposure and contrast and took down the highlights. I added just a little bit of the haze to raise the stars. I put some color noise reduction to reduce some artifacts on the sky. No green and purple fringe reduction here. That's all. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video.